Hey everyone, good to see you today. Today I am in this live stream. In this topic today, I'm talking about the how to really unlock vocal power. So 5 ways to sing with confidence. Confidence is so important, right? It is um, going to the stage, singing on the stage. Sometimes things can throw you at the last minute. The sound can throw you. Lack of preparation can throw you. A full crowd can throw you. An empty room or a small audience can throw you. There's a lot of things that can really affect your confidence as a singer. And of course, you guys know, as you know, coming from me as a vocal coach, a technique teacher in particular, founder of the Cold Vocal Method, which is based in vocal science and a really, detailed vocal technique method. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that when you work on your technique and you have the right technique that actually gets real results and doesn't mess with your sound, but really improves the strength of your voice and the tone and the range and all those incredible things, that your confidence grows. So that's number one. There's no question about it. Oftentimes as a singer early on, I would think, well, maybe I'm just like holding back, or I need to have more emotion. I just need to let go more. And the more that I trained, I realized it wasn't a matter of letting go. Sure, emotion affects the voice for sure, and the ability to sing with confidence affects that. But if you're not able, if your voice is not consistent, it shows up differently at every show. If it's not consistent and not reliable, and you haven't made space for those high notes, you don't have a good technique for them that's reliable, no amount of confidence is going to get you through those moments, So let's dive in. I'm going to talk today about mastering breath control, building true vocal strength, control over your high notes, building tone and resonance, and mindset tools to really sing with courage and conviction. We all know that people have no idea what it means to be a singer. Can I get a heart or a thumbs up? People think, it's just you pop up on stage and your voice is the same every time and you know exactly what you're doing and you have full confidence and you can hear yourself clearly on any stage. We all know as singers that that is not the truth. And so we know that the harder we work on our craft, the better we sound. We know that if we're trying to squeeze everything in, we're not getting all of that done, and it rocks our confidence. We know that when we can't hear ourselves on stage, I sang Carnegie Hall, and literally there were no monitors. Later, come to find out that Carnegie Hall, whoever is renting the space for that evening is renting and bringing in the sound system, which to me just seemed so bizarre that Carnegie Hall wouldn't have its own sound system, right? So the people I was performing with that night had not brought monitors, so who knew? There you were performing, kind of a dream venue with no monitors. So you really have to know what you're doing, right? So let's dive in. And just a quick announcement: to build a strong and healthy voice, really experience the full potential of your sound, come and learn the Cold Vocal Method. You can learn it inside the Vocal Freedom Circle. This is an 8-week online self-study program where you can get the foundation of the 75 exercises that are in level 1. They're warm-ups, but very specific warm-ups that have vocal massage and laryngeal manipulations inside them. So it's a unique formula that really opens the voice for performance. That includes also our vocal therapy and cool down exercises that you can only find here. These are based in vocal science. They thin the edges of the vocal folds and take the inflammation down. A lot of people use them post-show. They use them pre-show. And then I have speaking voice exercises also inside the Vocal Rescue Kit. And then the master voice building exercises, which is really the nut and bolts. It's where you build the tone, the overtone series, the legato line, all of those pieces. And then we finish with 4 fundamentals that I can go into at a later date. But this is a set of exercises you can use your entire career that will work alongside any other technique that you've ever trained. It won't interfere with it. Okay. So let's dive in. Okay. So mastering breath control. How important is breath control? Well, it's kind of everything. And when you really start to understand the power of the breath, you start to concentrate on it more in a way that will fuel the voice. Because when we speak, it's a habit in our body. When we speak, we don't have to take a deep breath to speak. But when we sing, we need to. And we need that breath going into the lower portion of the triangle of the lungs, not the upper portion of the triangle. We need to go sideways and into the rib cage. And a lot of singing teachers talk about the abdomen, which is great. The abdomen does need to go out, doesn't need to drop. But when the abdomen balloons out, it's often a sign that the rib cage is stuck. And the diaphragm is like a hand, an odd-shaped hand inside the rib cage. Okay, so if you're breathing down into the belly, but you're not releasing the ribs and opening the ribs and learning how to breathe truly diaphragmatically, you're not unlocking, the diaphragm's not going all the way down. You're not unlocking that reserve of breath there for you. So real breath control starts by breathing diaphragmatically into the lower triangles of the lungs, which is, you could identify as the lower like three ribs in the rib cage. You know, if you put your hands on your ribs, right, and you put them, you can feel like the bottom of your ribs there. And you really want to be able to feel an expansion as you inhale, right? So when you don't feel that and you only feel the breath in the belly, then that diaphragm doesn't have room to actually move down, and the diaphragm pulls air like a suction into the lungs. And then it's what you do with the breath while you're singing, right? So it's not letting all of that breath go flying out. That is the mastery of the breath. And singing, right? But the first thing is really getting the breath down into that area so the diaphragm can move down, pull air into the lower portion of the lungs. So there's a nice breathing exercise over on the blog for how to do that. And you can also watch my mini voice lesson on diaphragmatic breathing, either on my reels on Instagram or over on YouTube. You'll find my mini voice lessons. This is the beginning of breathing diaphragmatically. Number 2 is building true vocal strength, right? And one more thing I want to say about breath is, as you are singing, so you get that nice expansion, and then what a lot of singers do is ha, 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 and the chest drops even slightly, even like ha, ha, ha. You see that little drop? Ha. And a trained singer and an opera singer and a really well-trained singer, you'll never see the chest drop when you're making sound, because what's happening is, and sometimes you'll notice the ribs come in. Usually on most singers, the ribs come in. You're unaware of it. But really what you want is that ability to keep those ribs out and not drop the chest. What that's indicating when that's happening is that you're dumping air on the onset of the phrase. You've really set yourself up to fail on that phrase, basically. You're not going to have enough breath to really support that sound and be able to sing a long phrase or be able to sing well without falling back on your throat. Because the minute that you dump the air, you're in the throat. Am I Tina Fey? Oh, that's funny. I didn't catch that. I'm looking at the comments here on YouTube. Okay, so building true vocal strength. So to sing with more confidence, the voice needs to have more strength, right, in order to be consistent. And so the way to build strength is really learning how to sing correctly using the proper techniques that build the core of the vocal instrument. So we have to strip away the compensatory muscles, and the compensatory muscles compensate for the lack of strength at the core of the voice. And the compensatory muscles would be the back of the neck, the sides of the neck. You know, when you see people like this, like straining when they're singing, and when you pull your chin up for your higher notes, you're using the back of the neck, you're contracting the back of the neck to actually make sound, which we don't want to do. We learn in training how not to do that. Or some people will tighten the jaw, they'll overuse the jaw. A lot of people have very tight tongues. And all of these muscles interfere. They jump in to help to compensate for the lack of strength in the core of the instrument. And the core of the instrument really needs to be developed, but we first need to strip away that the over functioning of those accessory muscles, which are always masking and never getting to the root of the core muscles. In my cold vocal method, we work on certain positions, positioning the voice, getting the larynx to sit down, working on alignment, but very specific positions based on vocal science that do all that for you. They strip away the compensatory muscles and they start to focus on isolating and building the strength in the core of the voice. Singers often try to gain more power by singing louder, more forcefully, but this only backfires. It constricts and mutes your sound, and can even cause vocal problems over time. I've had so many artists, singers come to me over the years that got nodules from other vocal coaches unknowingly. They did not know they were doing that. No one would deliberately do that. It's a lack of training. It's a lack of pedagogy and training and understanding of the actual instrument. And not all techniques have vocal health baked into them. In my cold vocal method, vocal health is a very important feature, that all the movements that you're doing are protecting and preserving the voice long term and improving vocal health. So there's a nice exercise over on the blog called Drinking the Tone, which helps the singer avoid the tendency to push the sound forward or push that air out on the onset, and instead opens the throat, works on the alignment to actually resonate more, to get more power and more sound. And as you work on that, you become more confident because you have the right motions and techniques that you know are going to deliver more sound for you, right? So number 3 is control over your high notes, and gather your questions, because I will open up for questions when I get through these 5 points today. How are you guys doing? Where are you tuning in from? Let me know where you're tuning in from also. Number 3 is control over your high notes. So the first step in singing with more power in the high part of your range is to get your voice out of your throat, right? So the more that we're singing from the throat, the less that we're using the air and the support of the trunk of the body to actually take more of the brunt of singing, so we don't fall back on the throat, right? New York is in the house. Yay. I love it. New Jersey. Yay, Jack. Right over the bridge. So as long as you continue to sing from your throat or fall back on the throat, you will constrict and limit your range. So you won't step into your true potential. And you will also start to burn the voice out over time. You know, singing professionally over time, there is wear and tear on the voice. And that's why a lot of singers will come to me in their late 30s or 40s kind of going, uh-oh, I don't know what's going on, because they never established the good technique. They, could be natural singers. They just have a naturally good tone. That can kind of become a problem later on. So training is always really good, but no matter where you are, at whatever point you're at, you can improve the sound, and you can improve the longevity. So to set up the right breath support, you really want to focus on alignment. So we were talking about even from the beginning of even that slight drop, right? The chin going forward and the chest dropping a little bit. You've lost 50% of your breath capacity and your breath reserve. That is really what's supporting the voice to keep it from falling back on the throat. So over on the blog, you'll see I go through the areas of support and working on how to really work the chest wall correctly, the sternum press, how the pectorals, the importance of what the role of the pectorals in singing. So a lot of times you'll see singers that just can seem to belt it out and never really lose their voices. So what is that? Why is that? Well, of course it's training and other things, but you'll notice in contemporary singers that might be less trained, right? The ones who are able to get through it, their pectoral muscles they're more barrel chested. Their pectoral muscles are closer to their chin, like a swimmer's body, right? We have to be careful of working out. Like, you want strong muscles, but you also want lengthened muscles. So you want more yoga or Pilates kind of muscles that are long. So you want to strengthen the muscles. You want to lengthen them while you strengthen them. So we do a specific exercise into a door jamb or the corner of a room to lengthen the pectoral while we're strengthening it. So, we can go past where we would go on the floor just doing the push-up. And these are exercises that are used at the Nashville Voice Center for rehabilitation. It's one of the first things that they'll do with you. Why? Because the pectoral muscles anchor the laryngeal muscles. They're the only muscles that the laryngals really have to hold on to, that anchor it. And that's why you'll always see really good trained singers. Their chest is not lifting when they're inhaling and not dropping when they're exhaling. It's just staying neutral and it's staying up in a lifted position. This can be a problem when you have scoliosis or, pronated shoulders or problems with your alignment, but it's worth it to work on clearing up alignment issues and work with physical therapists and masseuses and body workers, from craniosacral to spinal network spine chiropractors to osteopaths, physical therapists, osteopaths to what's the one I'm thinking of? Well, Rolfing or spinal integration. No, I'm forgetting the more modern term of Rolfing. But these kinds of techniques, craniosacral, these kinds of techniques help to lengthen the spine and to keep the spine healthy, because over time we kind of shorten and melt. Yes, Alexander technique. Feldenkrais is also really good, small little movements to release very deep tensions, right? Even this motion of just pressing the chin in lengthens the back of the neck. And that action for the singer when you're singing, which, does go along with Alexander, because Alexander is putting the head on top of the spine. And Alexander technique was created by father and son who were singing live on theater, stages many, many years ago. And theater stages many years ago, there were no microphones. So you really had to project. And they lost their voices singing. And so they devoted their lives to understanding alignment and how that impacts singing to not lose the voice. So Alexander training, I bring Alexander into my method. Not in a traditional sense, but just the pieces that are really important for understanding how the head needs to sit on top of the body without the lower back overarching, right? And understanding that when the chin stays down, talk about confidence, instead of reaching up for the high note, you're keeping the chin level as you're singing the high note, instead of using the back of the neck, which is a convenient muscle, but it will mute and limit and constrict the range and the voice and the tone, and you'll end up singing from your throat and disconnected from the breath. Number 4 is building tone and resonance. I'm not going to have as much time to get into that, but you can find that over on the blog. And then mindset tools. So let's just go into mindset tools. And then if you guys have questions, put them in the chat or in the comments over on YouTube. So I can answer them. So mindset tools, we're talking a lot about technique, but mindset's really important also. And, it's common before a performance or recording to focus on the areas of weakness, the things that you need to work on, right, to make improvements. But one of the problems with doing that is then you're fixated on the problem. And, if anybody knows anything about consciousness and manifestation, we tend to then over focus on the negative things. So it's good to workshop things, but when you're visualizing the performance, always visualizing it miraculously going really well. Like out of the blue, it just goes really well, you know, and just continue to visualize like that. Visualization is not actually woo-woo. It is based in science. Olympic athletes use visualization. It's proven to improve performance by up to like 40%. All the big athletes use it. All of the smart singers use it. All of the smart performers use it. There's a very famous study when visualization techniques were first popular with Olympic training of a man, a true story of a man who was a prisoner in the Vietnam War. And during his time as a prisoner, he was a golfer. And so he imagined playing 18 holes of golf every day in his mind. And he would go slowly as if he was actually a lot of time sitting around, right? And so he would imagine the wind on his face, the sun on his skin. You know, he would imagine the sound of the ball, club hitting the ball and getting holes in ones and that whole kind of thing. And when he got out of the war and returned home, he went and played his favorite golf course and 18 holes in one. You know, it's some kind of miraculous story. And it is proven that, and there was a recent study with Renee Fleming actually with imagining singing versus singing. And they found that the mind was actually more active during imagining, and the muscles were responding. So it's something that my mentor taught me a long time ago. If you are, imagining, or you're in the club before and you don't have a green room and you can't really warm up. Well, if you follow the notes of the music that's on, your larynx is following those positions, which is a whole nother thing. But imagining things going well, because things can go south, the no monitors, like you'd have no monitors, and the band is really loud and you can't hear yourself, or you can have certain things that throw you. But visualization techniques will help you to think more positively and draw that to you then. Of course, building a strong foundation for your vocal technique to support your singing voice is still number one for building that consistency and being able to really deliver the notes even when you may not feel like it, or you may not feel confident, but your voice can do it, can actually hit the notes. And so the confidence then grows. So let me know if you have any questions. I think I saw one a little bit back. Let's see. PVN Assman says, so what type of exercise do you do to open your throat for more easily sounding without straining? Yeah, so there's a lot of exercises. We have a whole method that teaches you how to do that. But one of the ways in particular is you want to just imagine that you're going to bring a glass of water to your lips to drink, and you feel the throat slip down, right? So when the throat slips down, and then bring that feeling into the breath. So when you go to sing, you've already opened your throat. And then as you sing, keep your fingers here on the chest and don't let the chest drop at all. So most people will go, even just a little bit. Try putting some pressure here to keep the chest up against that pressure. So when the chest stays up, stays neutral, doesn't drop on the onset, it takes the pressure off the throat. So then you're not straining from the throat. And the other tip that I would give you is don't lift your chin. Don't reach up. We see images of singers like this. It's not a good idea for us to really be able to control instead of because then you're in your throat. So keeping the chest lifted, keeping the chin level, and practicing that opening of the throat, that from that movement of drinking an imaginary glass of water. We do that every single day. Are 3 little tips for not straining in your throat. And of course, come and learn our method, which will do all of that for you, because we line you up in these exercises in 20-minute sequences 5 days a week. and you practice all of these things without having to think about it. It's all done for you. You're instructed in exactly how to do it. And you can do that through our Vocal Freedom Circle, which is an 8-week self-study online course. You can do it at your own pace. You don't have to do it in the 8 weeks, but the modules are dripped over 8 weeks. The modules are about an hour. And then you do 20 minutes of practice 5 days a week. You will not believe the difference in your voice. And we do have monthly calls with me on Zoom for our private community that are ongoing. Yeah, so it looks like there aren't any other questions. It's always great to connect with all of you. It's important to take your voice seriously. You can only wing it for so long. You really need a solid base and foundation to protect your vocal health and longevity, and to provide that amazing confidence and consistency in your voice that brings that confidence in performance. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you next week at 12 p.m. Eastern. And go check out our live streams on YouTube. On the live page, every single live stream when I stream on Wednesdays is recorded live, so you can go back. If you missed the beginning of it, you can go back, and there's so much content over there. So thanks for joining me. Hope to see you soon. Sending much love to everyone. Bye.